president's revised travel ban goes into effect just 2 hours from now. We're going to look at the logistics, the politics, and the legal aspects of the whole thing. Then, as Republicans keep trying to do something on health care, President Trump making some comments that have them questioning whether he'll have their backs or stab them in the back. And then, yeah, we got to talk about this too. President Trump personally attacking the hosts of Morning Joe with a Twitter tirade that might be his worst one yet. And that is saying a lot. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman in for Richard French. After months of court battles, the Supreme Court finally heard the travel ban case, or at least agreed to hear it in October. They also agreed to reinstate part of it. That reinstated part kicks in less than 2 hours from now.
The first day that the Trump administration's newly revised travel ban takes effect, people are starting to feel the effects. Some travelers left stranded.
The governments that are issuing this kind of rules, they should reconsider that all the people are human.
Others ready to fight.
I promise my inbox is blowing up with lawyers because they're ready to come back out. They want to come back out.
President Trump's executive order in January calling for a travel ban on 6 mostly Muslim countries resulted in chaos at airports. But after months of legal battles, the Supreme Court ruled this week to partially reinstate the ban. Under the new guidelines, if someone from a restricted country wants a visa, they have to prove a bona fide relationship to someone in the U.S. The administration defines that as a parent, spouse, child, son or daughter-in-law, or siblings.
It's just very frustrating to know that the federal government can just redefine the concept of family.
Rama Issa plans to get married this fall, but now worries whether her family in Syria will be allowed to come to her wedding.
I was raised by my grandparents. The idea that I wouldn't be able to have them at my wedding it's heartbreaking.
The administration argues this travel ban will help protect Americans from terrorists by using extreme vetting, calling the ban's reinstatement a significant win for our national security. Those travelers trying to make their way here to JFK or to any airport across the country are going to have to wait a few more months before they learn their fate, as the Supreme Court is set to hear the case in full in early October. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, New York.
And just to be clear, while the court allowed part of the ban to go into place, it was the administration that figured out exactly who it was going to apply to and who it wasn't. All right, for more, let's go to our panel. Tonight, we're joined by Richard Brodsky, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos, a professor at NYU, and frequently the ache in my head. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And on the other side of the table, the only Bill O'Reilly you'll see on TV tonight, former Republican strategist who is now a member of the Conservative Party. Gentlemen, welcome all. I got to start with a legal question, which means I got to start with Richard first, who's the attorney at the table. The case is going to be heard by the Supreme Court, but there could still be legal challenges to the implementation of it. This whole policy about grandparents don't get in and...
Simple answer is yes. What the Supreme Court did is it said you have to have a bona fide relationship. That's the term the Supreme Court used. The Trump administration defined bona fide relationship, for example, to exclude grandparents. If a grandparent does not have a bona fide relationship with someone in the United States, you can challenge that. I suspect it will be. I don't suspect anything will happen until the big argument is had in October.
Bill, this struck me as being a little more narrowly crafted than it needed to be. I'm curious what your take on it is. If they should have restricted it, made the ban or allowed fewer people into the country, allowed more people into the country?
I mean, I don't think this is definitely not going to blow up like the other one, because you're not stopping people mid-travel. People that currently have visas are going to come through. It's not going to be that same explosion. I think we really have to wait for the Supreme Court decision later on to see what gets through at all, if it does. But this is obviously way watered down. The bona fide question, I think, is a good one.
It's not watered down. It's partial.
It's partial. It's partial. It's partial.
Watered down. I'll say it. Watered down. Watered down. How do you define, what's the term, bona fide?
Yeah.
Okay, well, somebody that was raised by their grandmother, that means that...
I'm not defending it.
Right.
I'm simply explaining.
But that is one of the legitimate questions that will come out of this. I mean, grandparents in a lot of families are part of the nuclear family.
It's called kinship care. And in a lot of communities, grandparents are being forced, and a lot of communities around the world, to raise their grandkids, thus becoming the mother or father in a relationship.
Let's not lose sight of what this is supposed to be about. This was supposed to be a timeout, not a permanent ban.
90 days, right?
And they've already had the 90 days.
Right, so it's already
They
elapsed.
haven't produced.
And what were they supposed to do during those
They
90
were supposed
days?
to get real vetting, tougher vetting.
Right.
They haven't produced it. There's a nonsensical quality to this, no matter what your position on how tough the vetting ought to be. Maybe Trump is right, the vetting should be tougher. Maybe he's wrong. When already? I mean, they've had the time to do
The
it.
part that bothers me the most is the fact, I think Bill referenced this, what you saw happening at airports all across America, the administration made sure that's not going to happen again this time. So Americans became outraged and ran into federal court over people flying in midair, being told they're not going to be let in, and all lawyers appearing like Mr. Brodsky at airports, representing people. I don't know. It's just something about this that the administration made sure that type of scenario does not play out on American
Supreme Court
TV.
did, not the
Okay, well, the
administration.
Supreme Court, but it's still now it's going to occur before they even get here. So Americans won't even really know
exactly.
what's going on.
But I'm not so sure I agree, because we talked about that earlier this week, whether it wouldn't have the same PR impacts that the earlier ban did, because you wouldn't have all of that misery at the airport. But this division of families feels like it's another opportunity for bad press on the whole thing. Now you're going to have press conferences
there's so
with
much
families
more to
missing
talk about,
grandma
yeah.
and grandpa.
But where's the TV image to show that? Where's the TV? You're not going to have that. What happened the first time, any local station could have ran to their local airport, and for the most part, there was an outrage there. Now you're going to have one family that's looking for media coverage, and we know what happens with that. It's very hard to get it. So the outrage that we saw the first time around,
And the second time.
And the second time, and the Supreme Court is going to take this up in October. So the partial defeat for Trump is that he wanted an expedited hearing on this, immediate hearing.
He wanted the ban reinstated in total, pending the argument. He didn't get that.
Right. So he didn't win that, but it's just. I don't know. I just feel like they did a public relations scrub on this. Now, I know you said the Supreme Court, but we're not going to see the same outrage and Bill uses that we saw the last time.
What's the political ramification of both the Supreme Court's decision and the Trump administration's application of that in terms of who gets in and who doesn't get in? Does this help Trump or help Democrats on this issue? Is it a wash?
The spin alone helps Trump with his base. Not that they were going anywhere anyway, but the spin alone gives him something to hang his hat on.
What about to the middle? To the folks who
There is
were
no middle.
well, no, there were people who just couldn't stand to vote for Hillary Clinton, and those people, they're not diehard Democrats
There
or
are
anything.
12
They're
of them
just
left, and they're all
I don't think that's
undecided.
true. I think there's more than
I think
that.
there are a lot of people that agree with Trump, and they're willing to let him be the heavy on this one, on this one.
And
in
the Supreme
particular.
Court adds credence to his
Depends
claims
on what
and
they
all that?
decided.
Well, no, but they've already decided to hear the case, and they've already allowed part of the ban to go into effect. I'm just saying, from what we know now, how does that change the metric in terms of Dom?
It plays to his base, but they're both right because the court has not heard the argument. You're both right.
Oh, don't get him started. Don't
You're
get him
both
started.
right. No, you really are.
is on tape.
Mr. Brodsky, when you are
write
correct,
this down.
unfortunately, I have to admit it.
All right. I did see
So
every 6 months, right?
But every year. So no, I'm only joking. So he's right. It really doesn't have much of an impact because the Supreme Court has not heard the case yet. We'll see what happens in October when they hear the case.
All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, Republican leaders are scrambling to revise the health care bill before the weekend. Will they do it? And if they do, will they get enough Republicans to support it?